welcome back to the PT Graduate Podcast. This is a rather special episode because we've hit 100 episodes. And when this was approaching, one of my previous guests said, I know, when you get to 100, I'll interview you. And I was like, I had to think about that, but we're here. And I'm glad to say that I've decided that was a good idea, and thank you for the idea, Michah. It's really appreciated, and thanks for your time again. For those who may not have listened to episode 19, Michah was my guest on episode 19. If you want to scroll back and have a listen to understand a little bit more about her and her business, feel free to do that. And I think at some point in the future, I'll get her back on as a guest so that we can get an update, because you've been doing some exciting stuff, I see, which I'm quite keen to hear about as well. So hello and welcome.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here. Well, I'm been, intrigued to hear what you've been up to, really, because, you see drips and drabs through social media, which looks exciting, but you don't really get the full picture. And I guess for everyone out there, I met Richard in Australia. He picked me up from the airport. So that was our first introduction to each other, kind gentleman. We did an amazing course through Kaizen of becoming holistic coaches. And so I guess that's, when I think about the first question, I maybe we can go back to how you first got into it, but I'm really interested to know, because I know you've got, you've really furthered yourself in that avenue. So tell me about that.
Yeah. You're right. That came about because I'd kind of got to a place in my business where I felt like I was hitting a brick wall, and I was going, where do I go from here? I don't know anymore, or what do I do to grow? And I'd done some franchise work in a previous life before getting into the industry, and I thought, I know, let's franchise the business. And I started digging into it, and I thought, I'm not sure whether because I could see what will happen is that if it grows and it becomes big, I'll just become a manager. I'll just become someone overseeing this operation. And really the reason I got into the industry is to work with people and stay on the tools almost, to really, deal with the individuals that I'm helping. And so that wasn't an option. So I started sort of scratching around and looking for what was out there, what options were available. And I don't know how this happened, but I ended up on a call with Dave Leo. And he had actually been on my radar for a while. I did a couple of courses with his organization called CEF Seminars, which I think is no longer operating because Dave moved to Australia. And so he was on my radar, and so he wasn't a complete stranger. So I was able to kind of go, I sort of know him, and I've done a couple of courses, and I quite liked what we did.
Yeah.
What the hell? And we were chatting on this call, and he was saying, well, what is it you're looking for? Where are you at? What do you think you need? And I was like, well, I'm not absolutely sure. He said, well, I'm the technician. I do, a lot of the musculoskeletal stuff. And my business partner at that time, he was working with Angela Jenkins. So, and Ange was very much into the holistic side of things and sort of that functional medicine stuff, which was quite interested. I was quite interested in, interesting. And she was also working with corporates. She was doing some presentations, that sort of work as well. And so that sparked my interest too. And so I thought, well, not sure how or what this looks like, but I'm definitely interested in some of the stuff that they do. And so Dave said, well, why don't you come over and do a mentorship? And so that was November 2014, I think it was, my first one. And, that sort of sparked my interest, and I got a whole bunch of education from that, which was completely new to me in terms of assessing, structurally assessing the body. So this is what we call the base assessment. And for now, for every new client who walks through my door gets a base assessment. So I know what I'm dealing with. I can program properly. I know if there are any considerations that body, that person may have, rather than going, oh, here's a blanket program that everyone does. So it helps you be really more specific. But there wasn't really anything after that. It was like, did the mentorship and walked away with a whole bunch of good stuff. And the other good stuff that I walked away with was more information on my own health. So they were consulting with us as individuals, as well as giving us this education. And I realized that I was completely burnt out. And
Like, I think most of us were like,
funny
what the
that, yeah. I think it was like 3/4 of everyone who went through there was in that state, and I wish I was one of the quarter. But I think that was a classic symptom of the fact that I'd kind of just been pushing, going, what do I do next? I was getting frustrated. I was overtraining and overworking, and that was, once I saw the results in black and white, there was no hiding from it. And so I went back, and I think that second return visit was when I met you, and when we went, we shared the car from the airport up to the Sunshine Coast, which was great. And going the second time was like watching a movie for the second time, going, oh my God, I didn't see that. And I even remember saying to them, going, you didn't teach this last time, did you, Dave? And he went, yeah. He was like, yes, I did. I'm like, oh, okay. So all this new stuff was dropping the second time for me, and I thought, oh man, there's so much more to learn. I'm just scratching the surface here. What else is there that I can learn and pick up from these guys and really improve what I deliver to my clients? And by that stage, there was something else. So it wasn't just a standalone mentorship. There was actually a bit of a program that you could follow. And so there was ongoing education sessions each week, which were broadcast. It wasn't Zoom, but it was like Zoom, but now it is Zoom. So wherever you were in the world, you could join in at the right time and sit down. There was notes. Dave would deliver the lecture. He'd have his team around him. They would be the guinea pig in front of the camera, so you could see what he was talking through and delivering it on somebody, so you could see how you would do it. And it was a joy to be part of. You're part of this community of people, like-minded people. And so that would have been early 2015, and I haven't really stopped learning with Dave since then. 2019, I think, was a turning point where Dave and Ange decided to go their own way, and Dave set up Holistic Movement Coach. Excuse me. And so Holistic Movement Coach is kind of his reincarnation of what we were doing previously, with I guess a slightly different way of doing things, but still that strong emphasis on the musculoskeletal stuff, but still a really strong emphasis on the holistic stuff, because the tagline is much more than movement, right? So it's, yes, we're all movement coaches, but there is so much more to health and well-being than
you can't really break them apart, can you?
Exactly. And that keeps coming up on a few of my most recent conversations. And so, yeah, it just hits the spot in terms of that ongoing education. There's lots that goes on through the year. We still have those weekly catch-ups. We now have monthly masterminds. So each month we sit down, and it's much more sort of personal development as opposed to business development. So it's sort of getting you thinking about yourself and the way you think and the way you act and how you behave, so that you can deliver what it is you want in your business.
So are you now in partnership with David? So you're one of the mentors delivering this program?
Yeah. So myself, Raywin Ning, and Janira Linton Ozic were all asked to, excuse me, terrible indigestion, all asked to be mentors on the program. So because we'd been on it for that length of time, there were still other people coming on, and so our role was to help bring them on board, explain how we rolled. There were certain things that we just did, and so that onboarding process was done by us. We would do coaching sessions. So also every month there's a coaching session for people. So this is one-on-one. How are you going in your business? I'll keep notes. I'll keep you accountable.
Great, what a structure.
So it was really nice to be asked to do that and be part of the business, as well as being a student in the business. So we're kind of doing two things. And so where are we now? 2024. Goodness.
2019 that sort of began.
Yeah. So that's a decent chunk of time to be committed to that level of education, that level of commitment to the program, to Dave, to everyone else in the program. And it's been fun. It's been really, really, really fun. And as you know, I won the award 2016, and I put that down to what I learned, and I guess the confidence that came with the learning, the confidence in my abilities. And I've got those guys to thank for a lot of the success that I've had, I think.
Yeah. Well, for those
And
people listening, they might not know which award you're talking about. Would you like to
sorry.
clarify what amazing award that was that you received? And you'd actually been in the finals a few times previous, haven't you?
Yeah. So I was nominated. I was nominated by Helen Chisholm, and that's where it kind of started for me. And she put me up for the PT of the year in 15. And then I was a finalist, and I thought, I'm not walking away from this. No, I'm going back for more, and was lucky enough to win it in 2016, which I know you're also a winner. So it's good to
A
have.
good company. Although I think
Yeah,
your knowledge was far deeper than my. I had a lot of enthusiasm in my year.
I'm sure it's more. I'm sure it's more than just enthusiasm, but yeah, that kind of affirms that you're on the right track. It's really nice to have, and there's the sort of external validation, I suppose, and that's nice, and it kind of gives you a bit of a boost, and things come out of the woodwork when that happens. I did a few sort of people approaching me saying, "Oh, can we do this? Can we do that?" Which was really nice as a result. So yeah, it's been an amazing ride, and it continues to carry on. Yeah.
So what's the balance between like you, because you do live one-on-one, you do in group training still? Do you do?
Yeah. I'm still most of my time is one-on-one. I still do a bit of group stuff, and that's about it. I used to do a boot camp as well, but after 6 years of standing in a cold field in the rain, it's like, yeah, I know you've got to be consistent, but I had to draw a line under that and say enough's enough. So yeah, it's all indoors. I use the TRX straps, which I also sell on my website because they're so damn good. That's my group. That's my group exercise stuff, and then one-on-one stuff is sort of my bread and butter. But I also do a little bit of corporate stuff. Working with organisations to, I guess, help improve. The organisation. For me, that feels like I'm having a bigger impact, and that was one of the big reasons for working in that space is impact, affecting more people out there and the people that we need to help. So do a bit of that.
Your presence and your delivery and everything, it feels like it will be wasted if you're not doing some of that sort of thing. I think you come across so awesome, and you're, now that you've got all this tool set, everyone needs to access it.
Absolutely. Well, why not? I mean, that's the thing. And I was just going to say, to me, it feels like it's giving back time. I've had many good years in the industry and still some really, really loyal clients, but the mentoring and sort of not the corporate stuff as well, but the mentoring particularly, and both my own and working with Dave and HMC does feel like you're helping others, and that's really, it's the same as working with clients in terms of that sort of satisfaction,
Yes.
because you're helping the people that help the people. And so there's that ripple effect, which is all very good.
I think that's why we do this, eh?
Exactly. That's right.
I'm interested in, because I was just saying before we recorded this, and I was thinking you were looking quite lean and quite healthy, and you had some thoughts on that. On what does your week look like? What does a healthy week in Richard's life look like? What sort of food do you eat, and what are your sort of exercise things? I'm sure people are quite interested because everyone knows how we coach people, but they're like, well, what do you do?
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because clients will say the same thing. What do you have for breakfast? I was like, well,
May not be right for you.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Having done a bit of epigenetics with Dr. Cam, you have to kind of give people that backdrop and go, what works for me isn't necessarily going to work for you. I'm happy to share, but please don't take that as gospel that is going to be the solution to your goals. But to answer your question,
without giving advice to anybody,
I'm not preaching. I'm just sharing. So yeah, I'll start. So one of the interesting things with the epigenetics is because I'm a crusader, I'm an ectomorph or an ectomorph mesomorph blend. I'm better with warm foods. So generally, I'll have eggs for breakfast or oats. Those are kind of my go-tos, and I'll chip some salmon into my eggs. I'll put some sauerkraut on some greens and a couple of pieces of Vogels underneath. Obviously, avocado as well. So there's lots of fuel going in and high protein, so that it just carries me through the day really, really nicely. And
intuitively, did you know that? When you got your results, did you intuitively go, "Hey, actually, I really enjoy warmer foods," or did you go, "All right, here we go"?
No, here we go. It was actually probably the biggest takeaway from all of it's such a massive amount of information when you get your profile done. But it was probably my biggest takeaway. And so the reason for that is that ectomorphs generally have slightly weaker gastrointestinal fortitude,
Yes.
to use a fancy phrase. In other words, they're a little bit weak in the guts,
So you
whereas
take a cold smoothie in there and it might not feel very nice.
whereas your endomorphs, they can pretty much you can throw anything at them and they'll probably tolerate it. So because it's warm, it's partially digested. So therefore it's done. Some of the work's been done for you already. And so I'll go for something warm at lunchtime as well. Typically, and I was looking to increase my vegetable intake because I knew it wasn't as good as it could be, would be soup. Generally, probably not my own made soap. I'll probably be buying it because it's from a convenience point of view. But it would be a way of getting those veggies up, right? So I'll look for the sorts of and I'll chop and change each week, so it's a different one to the one I had last week. And again, it's it's warm, it's partially digested, it goes down really easily, it fills me up. I might have some almonds on the side. I might chop up a carrot. Okay, it's raw, but I don't like eating cooked carrots, so dip the carrots in some hummus, and I'm good to go. Yeah, and then I try not to snack. I'll try and go meal to meal, and then dinner's usually reasonably huge for me. I'll just pile up the plate, which I know is the wrong thing to do, but I try and get that down me by about 6:30. So I've got a good couple of hours, if not more, before bedtime, which then will help set me up for a better night's sleep. And I know when I mess that up because the ring tells me. Yeah.
Well, I don't know, with your sometimes like having that feast at night, it can be really serving, can't it? It can actually induce better sleep if you time it right and you've got the right carbohydrates in there. So for you, it could be the perfect plan.
Yeah, exactly. And like I say, it's my way of doing things isn't right for everybody else. But and I think it's right. It's what actually is on the plate that matters. So, I'm quite keen on salmon, more so than whitefish, but salmon's a goodie because it's quite rich and it feels filling, but it's very delicate and it's easy to digest. So, it's not like eating a T-bone steak or something. And then lots of vegetables and lots of salad, and usually sort of mixed in together, and lots of other things in it that sort of bump up the calorific value, but also the protein. So there'll be feta in there, and there might be some LSA and a whole bunch of other bits and pieces as well. So that's usually a typical day for me, and a few cups of tea and coffee in between there, as the day goes on, but not too far into the afternoon, with the old caffeine intake. Yeah.
Yes, we know the rules, and then we get to stretch them sometimes.
That's right. I try and get the green tea in the afternoon, rather than a heavy black tea, and I don't drink coffee after midday.
Yeah. And so, what about and what sort of exercise are you? I know that you with your kids, even, and maybe years ago now, but everything seems fresh when you haven't talked to someone for a while, that you were doing a few endurance sort of events. You're doing bits and pieces. Are you doing anything like that, or are you just training for yourself or training for life?
Yeah, more training for life. I've got people who kind of go, "Oh, come and do this, come and do that." I'm like, yeah, I'm not that keen on doing a 30-kilometer coastal run. I have done the 24 version, and one side of your body gets burned because you're in the sun for half a day. And yeah, I probably try not to do too many of those really big events. So I'll keep one, maybe 2 runs in my routine a week. Currently it's swimming season, so I'm in the ocean with the Michah crew, my swim boys.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, we typically do Saturday, but there are a few keen beans who are like, who wants to go for a early morning midweek swim? So we're starting to separate into an A pack and a B pack, because some guys are getting faster and faster, and the Saturday guys, hang on a minute. So that takes a little bit of organizing when you're all in the water together. And then a couple of weight sessions. So I've got a mate of mine who, hand on heart, we've been training together since 2008.
Oh, he must be a cool guy.
He is a very cool guy. The good thing is we're very similarly built, and we've got very similar mindsets. So we're not quite carbon copies of each other, but in terms of what we can lift, what our goals are, all that sort of just fits really, really well. And he was a volunteer fire brigade member in my village here in Greenhithe when he lived in the village. Doesn't anymore. We used to use the fire brigade facilities which was
Nice.
basically donated equipment by all of the members of the crew who, I've got this random dumbbell lying around. Let's donate it to the fire brigade. So they had a gym. It wasn't a gym, just a hodgepodge of gear, and we just used to meet there a couple of times a week and lift weights. And since I created my own space here at home behind my garage in a dedicated, gym for clients, we do it there now. But yeah, that's that's a typical week. But the other thing is just dog walks. So just casually, I'll be probably got one this afternoon with my dog because she didn't get one this morning.
A date with the dog. Yep.
Yeah, date with the dog. She's looking at me as if to say, come on, you missed this morning. So yeah, the dog walks are like the sort of the slow, gentle movement without intensity type stuff, and the others are probably just a little bit more intense. Yeah.
That sounds well-rounded. And you have got some children, and they must not be children so much anymore.
No, they're both uni students.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Are they following in your footsteps, or are they doing something completely different?
My daughter is, my son isn't. So we'll see. We'll see whether she goes into the industry or not. I'm not sure. She's quite interested in nutrition. So it's possible that she may maybe combine the two or just go down the nutrition path, but she's doing the sports science at AUT. So we'll see.
Very nice. And so when you think about, like, you've done so much, and you mentioned that you're in that stage where you can give back a little bit, but I guess, I mean, if you're so hungry for information and upskilling, can you see what the next few years hold? Do you have some secret aspirations that you want to share?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, well, before COVID even kicked in, I started doing NLP practitioner training.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just more interested in what was going on in the top 2 inches. It's obvious that that's the key that unlocks the goals for everything else with our clients, right? And I really should have done some psychology papers or something along the way earlier, because there's some similarities in terms of understanding how the mind works, particularly understanding the subconscious and how it drives 96% of our day.
Crazy.
So that was a real desire to just learn more about that and understand techniques that I can incorporate into my coaching, so that just helping people understand themselves better, help them increase their own self-awareness, seeing their own patterns sometimes, or someone communicating them back to them where they may not be aware, is really powerful. So I want to put that NLP stuff to better use. So I'm launching a coaching business which is sort of standalone to Fit for Life, which will incorporate both professionals, but also keep the mentoring side of things going. So it all just sits under that same umbrella of Rich Ellis Coaching.
Wow.
And incorporating that NLP work in there, which when I finally completed it, because it was COVID that stopped that happening. So it was happening, then it stopped, then it started, then it stopped, obviously, as we know. And so the course didn't end up being delivered. And so they gave us a refund, and I went, right, where am I going to put this money? Found a different organization and got it done. So
wow. So you did, like, double learned it?
Sort of, yeah. The first half I was like, yep. Oh, hang on, this is new. So that was quite good.
Maybe that's your trait of doing things twice, so you get to know more than anyone else.
It is. Yeah, so that's the plan for this year. I'm still doing the corporate stuff. I've still want to do that stuff. I've built a program that's now deliverable online, which I was never doing before. It's always in-person stuff. So that means that I can go 50 or 5 or however many in between, and everybody can participate in the program. So if you know organizations out there that are looking to invest in their team,
yes,
that's sort of one string of the bow, and then the other is the coaching component, so getting that. And I see those meshing together. So when you finish a program, there's going to be an element of, well, what do I do now? And so that's where I see the coaching coming in. People going, right. Actually, can you steer me? Can we do 3 sessions or whatever it may be?
Yeah.
And help them sort of stay on the right path.
And so that website is not your Fit for Life one, or it is? So what is that website?
No, it's not there yet. I'm still building it. So it's the website will be richellis.nz, but it's you'll see the domain name is taken, but that's it.
They're working. So watch this space. Oh, right. So it's no surprises that you had things in the works. I could never imagine you say like, well, I've actually finished. I'm just gonna like carry on doing what I'm doing for the rest of my life.
Always got to be something.
Yeah. And so part of your usual setup with your sessions is delivering some top tips. And I'm guessing you've heard before you give your top tips, I know you've had 100 people on, which is incredible. Your perseverance is actually amazing that you could even like carry on going through despite COVID, etc., of getting to where you've got. If you could think of a couple of, I don't know if there's tips or a couple of memorable moments from maybe a few sessions that you think like, oh, that's what I want to do before I ask you what your top tips are. Does anything pop to mind?
Yeah, the thing I find interesting, and that's why I like the top tips, because if we can get 100 top tips and there's probably 3 or 4 per person, then there's got to be some gold in there for people listening. And that was really the reason for doing the podcast. It's interesting when you ask people, because I try not to prompt them. They know it's coming, but I don't say anything other than that. And there's a lot of overlap. There are some real themes. And actually, that is the reason why I decided to put my hand up for conference and talk about it. I actually picked the top 5 top tips from the podcast and delivered it at News and Exercise Conference back in November.
So I'm telepathic.
That's exactly it. So I haven't got that presentation in front of me, but what I tried to do was sort of get some variety in there, but also the things that kept coming up. Who was the guest that really stood out when that point was made? I can, if anyone's interested in my notes or my slides, I'm really happy to share them and send those on, because again, it's about helping and making a difference and sort of supporting others. But I'm struggling to remember sort of those key 5 steps. So what I'll do is I'll put them in the show notes, and those can be there for people to read. And if they want to send me an email, I will send them the notes directly.
So I think it will be quite intriguing. Okay, so then if there is overlap, then maybe your top tips have some overlap to these that might jog some like, aha.
Yeah, they do. And I've only got 3, but I'm a stickler for systems. So a few years ago, I presented on that as well. So having a way of doing, this is my franchise brain sort of going, having a way of doing things that is systemized, so that if you got knocked over by a bus tomorrow, someone could walk into your business and go, oh, that's how they do that. Oh, that's how they do that. So you're almost creating a manual for how you run your business. And so if you're new into it, what I would suggest is that every time you do something new, you write it down. And then over time, you collect all of those things, and that automatically writes the manual for you. Obviously, it needs typing or whatever, but there are lots of great dictation services out there. So my one is systems. How do you keep client records? How do you onboard a new client? How do you upsell a client? How do you keep in touch with clients outside of sessions? What is the process for all of those things? Because we kind of just take it for granted. Oh, I do this or I do that. Well, write it down. Don't just because it seems casual and relaxed and easy for you, don't think that doesn't have any importance, because it does. It's a function of your business. And then the other part of that is the financial side, which is the presentation was on, is understand your financials, get clear about what your goals are, where your expenses are coming from, and how much you're going to turn over, and is it viable? Is this thing sustainable? Because then at least you can go, right, that month I'm going to make money, that month I'm going to make money, and I've got a big tax bill. But because it's coming, you can plan yourself with a profit and loss and a cash flow forecast that says, this is what my bank account is going to do, and therefore I need to save here, or I need to spend here, or whatever it may be, so that there are no surprises. That's really what it's about.
And then sometimes people don't want to hear that, do they? Because it's like, I'd rather put my head in the sand and just know that my awesome personality is making money somehow.
That is not a business plan. And I'm not saying that your business plan has to be pages and pages. You could do a 1-page business plan. You really could. Just think about the functions in your business. How's it going to work? And just execute it. And the third of the 3, so you've got profit and loss, cash flow, and the last one is your coaching tool or your weekly tracker. So if your weekly tracker is broken into months, it should give you an idea of how you're going before it happens. So before you get to the end of a month, you should see roughly how well you're going. So because you're putting in all your sessions, all the things you sell, blah, 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 gives you a grand total at the end of each week. And as those weeks build, that's a month. Then that should correspond back to your profit and loss, the plan that you made at the beginning of the year. And so you should then know before you get to the end of the year whether you're going to achieve the number that you first set out to achieve.
If you need to retweak. So what, and when you
Yeah.
say systems, they all, are they using platforms that other people can access, or are they systems that you've created? Or have you got some platforms you go like, hey, you should use Zero for this, or this for tracking, or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, Zero, yes, because that's how my accounting works. My accountancy, I pay a fee, and my accountant does the work, and I do the coding, and she does the finishing touches. That's the legal compliance and all that. So yes, you can use Zero. It's sort of market leader, but there's MYOB as well. But after that, really just a spreadsheet. Just a few spreadsheets. You can even get templates out of Microsoft. If you go into Excel and you click on open, you'll see a whole bunch of templates, right? And in those templates are something for everything. Shopping lists all the way through to financial modeling. So you don't have to spend a lot of time and a lot of money sort of creating those things. But once you set them up, just save it as a template and just keep using it each year. And then each year you start the next plan, you've got all that history to look back on and go, okay, I forgot about the tax in May. And you see what you missed, you plan that in for the next year. There's less surprises, there's more success, and on it goes. So systems, number one.
I like it. And I think that you made it sound simple enough. When you talk about you can just grab, simple spreadsheet, then people don't have to feel too overwhelmed. Like, oh no, should I even start this?
Yeah. Yeah. And if people want a template, I've already got them. All they need to do is ask, and I will email it to you. It's pre-populated. All you have to do is type in what the sales are going to be. Ooh. And I think maybe your hourly rate or something. And the rest is done. Obviously, you need to know what your expenses are, right? So
yeah, right.
What's coming out of the business. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
All right. So that's number one. Like it. What's number two?
Number two is protect your energy.
Is that a common theme with lots of people with their tips?
Yeah, it's come up a few times. I don't think in those words that it can be phrased in lots of different ways. I think finding out or downtime for yourself, making sure you don't do too many hours, find the right number of hours for you that's going to make your business work, and have a line in the sand so that you don't just keep on flogging yourself. That's another way of protecting your energy. And the other way of protecting your energy is sort of that client interface. We can easily take on our client's energy. We can take on their negative energy, their frustrations. And I don't think that's healthy. I think there needs to be a healthy sort of division between yourself and your client. Now, obviously, you can empathize and work with them. You've got to. But if you allow your energy to sort of interface and cross over, then that can wear you down. So, looking after your energy from both a downtime point of view and a sort of a client-facing point of view, I think is really, really critical to sustainability in the business. And back in 2014, when I realized that I wasn't making any cortisol, it was a rude awakening that made me sort of reevaluate everything I was doing and realize that I already wasn't protecting my energy at all, or it was just scattered everywhere.
Yeah.
And I needed to rein it in and fully understand how to manage it and how to better look after myself. Then the sustainability can. Yeah, so that will look different for different people, but I think it's very easy to work long days, start early, potentially have a break in the middle, but then finish late and flog yourself quite easily. And I think when you're starting a business, that's quite necessary, but I think you also need to sort of have a timeline on that and say, right, after 3 months, I need to have achieved this so that I can back off and get some time back for myself and find a bit of a better balance.
Yeah, I think that's probably a really powerful point for, both of us have done this for a long time, and I don't think we could have otherwise. And I think that was a turning point for me also. Got a funny antidote, because I see that you've still got the Aura ring. Last week I decided to go, can I change my recovery stats in one day? And so I did this thing where I didn't have any clients till the late afternoon. I went into this big workout, which I thought, well, that will drop my stats. But then I went and did the sauna, cold pool, and had an osteo appointment. And then I did this charcoal and like nice, salted water and all this other stuff. And then when I went to bed, I felt like going to sleep. And I woke up in the morning and it was like the most black and white thing you can imagine. So say if I, with heart rate variability, that's a pretty good measure of your recovery. And if
Yep.
say if you've got the energy, if you've filled your cup back up, I guess would be a nice way to say it. And if I
Mm.
can get it over 100, that's pretty cool. Then that would mean like, okay, you've filled your cup back up. But on this
Yep.
particular day, it sits at 139 and the maximum is 233. And I went, that's how you go and restore your energy. And I know it's different for everybody, but it's just so amazing that you can use a tool like this and go. And so I've done it again since, and it repeated the same thing just to prove that it was. And I was like,
Yeah.
man, if I want to protect my energy, then that really fills my cup of doing things that are a bit novel and
Mm.
that I love the hot cold and all that sort of thing. And I
Mm.
thought,
Mm.
isn't it powerful? And if people could realize, hey, if you filled your cup for a good couple of hours, at least once a week, then maybe, and that carried over for a couple of days, my stats stayed high. So I think that without a doubt, that energy protection allows us to keep being vital for our clients.
Yeah. That's a brilliant anecdote. I like it, and I wish I could get my numbers that high. That's
Well,
impressive.
well, I tell you what, mine was sitting at 30. Like when I
Yeah.
when I got COVID and they went, they stayed
Mm.
at 30 for 8, and I just knew that hang on a second, I had to do some radical things to change my health
Mm.
again. And eventually Greg and I went to Mexico, got the stem, and I've got to give some credit that I've had a bit of a boost, and so
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
and that made a difference. But this
Okay.
was on a particular. This is only last week that I did this, so I think that that ages ago when I was younger, I could get over 100. Then there's a patch of, and now I feel like I can do that.
Mm. Mm.
Not on call, but I have to be pretty
Mm.
diligent
Okay.
to get.
Impressive. Well, that's our next episode. With the next time you come on, it'll be all about that stem cell thing, because it's quite a story. It's quite interesting.
It is. It feels like it's an evolution, and I think that
Mm.
it's like yourself. It's just like have these little turning points, and that's why I was so intrigued to see how you got to this point. And I didn't actually realize that you had got to burnout when you were
Mm.
at Kaizen, but that makes so much sense because it's very motivating to see those black and white stats, isn't it?
Oh yeah, sure is. And my third one is the one that probably comes up a lot, and this was point. I can remember that this was point 5 in the presentation, um, which is get a mentor, and obviously
Yeah.
Dave has been mine, and I've had different people supporting me across the years and the different things that I've done, but Dave's certainly been to the consistent person in my career, and I put a lot of credit to what I've achieved down to him and his support and his experience, his knowledge. He's quite a trailblazer in the industry, and has been for a number of years, and has a lot of qualities which he doesn't blow his own trumpet. He's not a trumpet blower. He sort of just goes under the radar a lot, and if you end up at one of his lectures and you like what he says, then you might end up finding yourself in his ecosystem. But if you don't, you may not even know the name, sort of thing, necessarily.
Yeah.
And it just gives you that ability to soundboard, to throw ideas at somebody, get some accountability. We all need accountability. Our clients need it. We need it. Everybody needs accountability. Kids need it. It can be delivered in different ways, but everybody needs it. And I think that's probably that's my point 3, which I think is probably the most important one, in terms of what it does for you as a person, what it does for you professionally, across the board.
Yeah, it's quite a challenging one, isn't it? Because as coaches, there's a vulnerability of going, oh, aren't I supposed to be the coach? If I get someone to coach me or help me, then, and so I think that if you haven't been in the industry very long, that you've got to be like really open and going like, hey, we all need support. We all need to be able to grow. And I think you chose a pretty awesome one, because I was very attracted to David. The first seminar I saw up in what is it? Uh, the exercise conference. And yeah, I think that he has a genuine quality. I think it's, arrived in bare feet, and that was always like, oh, I like this guy already.
Yeah. That's him. Spends as many days in bare feet as he can. He doesn't like wearing shoes. Yeah.
Oh, that's really, really powerful. I think those 3 tips, I've actually written them down, because I was like, okay, so I need to email you for some templates, and yes, and have I got my mentorship sorted out properly? So, even you think you've got it going on, but I've learned a few good things today that I think I can exercise better as well.
Cool. And the interesting thing with that mentorship, just going back to the mentorship that the HMC now delivers, because there's this ongoing program of education, when something better pops up that might be a component of that mentorship, it immediately goes into the syllabus. And so
Right.
if you do one in April and you do another one in October, they aren't the same thing, because
Yeah.
often there'll be things that have improved in the intervening months, and so it's become a new version of itself. And I couldn't tell you what number it's on. It's probably version 27 or something. Who knows? But it's that's why it's worth going back and going, oh, actually, I probably should refresh. Because actually, the one you did, in 2015 with me is completely different to the one that you would do in 2023. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that you're totally right. And isn't that encouraging to go that you guys are staying so relevant and on the edge and open to like, hey, this platform can be, continually built on, because I think people like to say, this is what I teach and I'm never going to steer away from that.
Yeah. They can do, and I think you can very quickly sort of become blinkered and think that you've nailed it, and you know everything you need to know. And I think what I've learned is that there is really no end to the learning. It's will become a life learner. Take that on as a trait or even a value, and just live it. Because
Yeah.
then you're always going to be hungry for new. You're always going to be going, is this worth keeping, or do I just is it, how useful is that? And then you just keep doing that, some over the shoulder, some in the keep it file, and things just get better. Yeah.
It's really awesome. I love the way your thought process works, and you can see I can see that you are a systems guy, because you did everything you talk is in some kind of clever system. And I have no idea. I don't know if you've got anything out, any other gems you want to deliver. I don't know how you wrap your beautiful sessions up, or your so I guess we're coming to the end. I feel like we are,
Yep.
but I don't know if you've got any other words of wisdom to deliver.
Here we go. No pressure. Sometimes I'll drop that on other people. The one I go is there a question I haven't asked?
Yes.
Saying it the wrong way around. So is there a question I haven't asked? And sometimes I'll remember to say it, and sometimes I won't remember to say it. But if there was one I needed to answer, I don't know whether there is.
Oh, great. Well, that's encouraging.
Now you've put me on the spot. You've done a great job. You've done a great job. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, well, I feel like I'm the lucky one, because I got to actually catch up with you and hear all these awesome things. And it's nice I've got my dose of inspiration today, which is always great.
Cool. Awesome. Hey, thank you for your time and suggesting this. It's been quite interesting being on the other end of it, even though it's the same mic.
Oh, well, I look forward to the next time.
Awesome. Thanks, Michah. See ya.